Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parshas Re'eh, Tavshin Pei. And for the Drasha this week, we're going to focus on the beginning of the Parsha that reads, Re'eh anochi nesen lefnechem hayoim. Behold, I put before you today, bracha klala, blessing and curse. Esa bracha, the blessing, asher tishma'u al mitzvahs Hashem Elokeichem. The blessing comes on the condition that you listen to the commandments of Hashem, your God. Asher anochi mitzaveh eschem hayoim, that I'm commanding you today. V'aklol, the curse, im lo yisishma'u al mitzvahs Hashem Elokeichem, if you do not listen to the commandments of Hashem, your God, v'sartem min haderech, and you shall stray from the path. Asher anochi mitzaveh eschem hayoim, that I command you today. To follow after other gods that you do not know. So the Alshich has the following question. The first word in the Parsha is Re'eh, which means see or hold. And it's a singular form. Re'eh is when you talk to one person and you tell that person, behold, see, you say Re'eh, it's a singular form. But 3 words later, it says, Anochi nosei lifneichem hayoim, that I put before you, lifneichem is plural. Behold, I put before you. The word behold is in singular form, but before you is in plural form. Why does the Torah switch from the singular to the plural? That's the Alshich's question. So the Alshich answers in a very interesting way. The Alshich answers that a person might think that if you look at a situation with a king of flesh and blood, and he's got many servants, and they all have the job of serving the king and getting things done for the king. And there's one servant that slacks off. He slacks off. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. But everybody else is doing. And collectively, the job is getting done. So in that kind of situation, the king may just look away, like, why bother? So he's slacking off. It doesn't make much of a difference. A person may think, here I am amongst many, many Jews. If I slack off, if I don't fulfill my obligations of the Torah, there are so many other Jews that are doing God's will. There's so many other Jews who are fulfilling Torah and mitzvahs. So what's it? Is he really going to pay attention to me if I slack off? There's so many other people getting the job done. There's so many other people fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs that God has commanded. Just if one person slacks off or one person doesn't get the job, does it really bother God? Does it really make a difference to him? And the Alshich says this is what Moshe Rabbeinu was addressing when he spoke to the Jewish people and used the word Re'eh, individual, and then switched over to collective. And he explains that if you look at what happened of the giving of the Torah, it is very clear that that kind of thought process is completely wrong. To think that, Hashem gave the Torah collectively to the Jewish people. Collectively, the Jewish people are to fulfill the Torah. And if one person slacks off, what's the big deal? Rather, if you examine what took place at the giving of the Torah, it's very clear that the Torah was given to each and every individual, not just as part of the collective group, but to each and every individual. First of all, the Jewish people merited prophecy. When God gave the Torah to the Jewish people and the 10 commandments were uttered by him, or at least the first 2, that was a prophetic experience that all the Jewish people had. And the Talmud says that before the Torah was given, the Jewish people were cleansed from the Zuhama. They were cleansed from the spiritual pollution that was put into mankind once Adam, the first man, ate from the tree of knowledge and committed the first sin. That Zuhama, that contamination, that spiritual contamination that entered every human being, the Jewish people were cleansed of that at the giving of the Torah. Every one of them was cleansed of it. And they were cleansed from it in order to prepare them for the high level prophecy that they were going to experience. Every one of them reached that level. And when Hashem spoke to the Jewish people, when the 10 commandments were uttered, let's take a look at the wording that's used. The first commandment goes, Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzeisecha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Hashem your God, who took you out from the land of Egypt. It's all in singular form. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, your God, not Elokechem, you in plural. Asher hotzeisecha, took you out. Again, singular form, not plural form. Let's take a look at another one of the commandments. Kabed es avicha v'esimecha. Honor your father and your mother. It doesn't say kabed es avichem v'esimchem. Honor your fathers and mothers. The whole wording of the 10 commandments is God talking to the individual Jew. There is also a medrash that says that every one of the dibros, every one of the utterances, spoke to each and every Jew and said, Mukablani, will you accept me? That was something that every Jew experienced. Each Jew experienced the prophecy. God was speaking to individual Jew, and each one of his utterances spoke to each Jew and said, do you accept me? And therefore, it was really an individual experience. At the same time, it's not like everybody sat in their tents and had this experience. God did gather the entire Jewish people together. And the Ashach explains that the reason for that is that the reason for that was that we have a rule, B'reiv am hadras melech. The more the people involved in a mitzvah, the greater the glory to Hashem. We read the Megillah in Shul, B'reiv am hadras melech. It's Pesumei Nisa. It publicizes the miracle. There's also other examples of where we try to do a mitzvah when we can. We do try to do a mitzvah with many people doing it together, because a mitzvah done by many people together is a greater honor to God. And therefore, the Jewish people were given the Torah, 600,000 plus were there receiving the Torah because, again, to do a mitzvah with many people there, B'reiv Madras Melech, the more people involved in the mitzvah, the greater honor there is to Hashem. So clearly the fact that now the whole Jewish people were together when the Torah was given was a greater honor to Hashem. It could also be that there was another reason for having the Jewish people come together to do it, because although, again, each individual received the Torah, knowing that everybody else is in it together, and not just knowing it, but seeing that everybody else is receiving it, that's a certain level of encouragement, of strength that comes from knowing that everybody's doing it too. Perhaps another reason for the Jewish people coming together is because each Jew understood that as much as they have an individual obligation, this is being done collectively because we're responsible collectively for each other. We have our individual obligation, we have a collective obligation. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lazeh. Every Jew is responsible for one another. We receive the Torah as individuals, but also together as a people, because that was accepting the Torah collectively in the sense of each individual being responsible for the other one. So the fact that Hashem gave us the Torah with the entire nation together, that's not in any way an indication differently than saying that's not a contradiction in any way to the idea that the Torah was given to each and every individual person. Each individual is given the responsibility of fulfilling the Torah. It was done at the same time with many people there, as the Alshach says, because the more people coming to a mitzvah together, the greater the honor. Perhaps there are other reasons. And therefore the Alshach says this is what lies in the words in the beginning of the parsha. Re'eh, each one of you, see, behold, I give you all, I put before you all today blessing and curse. Every individual should see what I have put in front of everyone. Know that it's Re'eh, know that each individual has to behold it. Each and every individual has to understand their responsibility as an individual. see as an individual what I put before you all. I put it all before you because just like at the giving of the Torah, it was done with everybody together. Now also, Moshe says, everybody's together. The more people together, the greater the honor. So it's Lifnechem. I'm putting it on, the blessing and the curse is being put before all of you. But Re'eh, each one individual of you has to see on your own as an individual what I'm putting before all of you. Don't think that because I'm pulling it before all of you, it's a collective job. And therefore, really, it's all of you together should see. No, Re'eh, each individual should see that what I put before you all today, you have to see it as an individual. You are, Hashem gave each and every one of us the Torah. Each and every one of us was given the responsibility of fulfilling the Torah. And each and every one of us has the privilege of being able to fulfill the Torah. So the lesson that comes out of this is that no one should ever think like, why would God care about what I do? I'm one speck in the universe. Why would God care about what I do? If I don't do it, does it make such a big difference? There are plenty of other people fulfilling the Torah, doing mitzvahs, so I won't do it. Do I make such a big difference? And this week's parasha says, yes, you do. Re'eh. Every individual Jew has to see and contemplate the blessing and the curse that has been put before all the Jewish people. Everyone has to see it as an individual. Everyone has to understand that each individual is given the Torah. Each individual has a responsibility and the privilege and opportunity of fulfilling the Torah. And therefore, do you count? You certainly do. Because God has given each and every one of us the opportunity to fulfill the Torah, the job to fulfill the Torah, because each and every one of us has our unique purpose in the history of the world. But no one should ever think that they don't count. What difference do I make? Because every single individual has to see that the blessing and curse before all the Jewish people, the Torah put before all the Jewish people, is something each and every one of us has to see and contemplate and understand. That each one of us has the job, the opportunity, the privilege, the responsibility of fulfilling Torah, and each and every one of us counts. Have a wonderful Shabbos.